this is it, right? That if they have pocket picks, this is the time to release it. Yuumi now has been unlocked, and Yuumi has been paired with so many pairs, either with a hyper carry like the Jax, or the Xayah like what we saw last time yesterday with RRQ, where they were able to take a game off of J-Team. So no matter what combo they're gonna do, they have to execute this aggressively. I swear, Billy has to run everywhere across the map to make sure that they get the picks that they need.
And Billy has been one of the players we've been praising as a standout. It does appear he's been swapped out here.
Yeah.
We bring in Yuna. Billy playing a ton of the more engaged characters. This Enchanter switch may be the reason for that. You bring in Yuna to play the Yuumi and try and pair it with something that will accelerate that. Yeah,
that's the thing. Maybe this is the time Kite's going to play a Kai'Sa or a Vayne, possibly. It's going to be scary when you're up against T1 Singed and Kha'Zix that's going to flip you and burst you down.
Give me an Ashe. That's my call. Once
I want a Vayne! Oh, never mind. There's a Jax. We didn't get anything.
That might be the first time I've ever heard the two of you disagree on something.
That's true.
Wow.
And it's just as good that we saw the Garen and the Jax come through, because we now know that the Yuumi is paying attention to that top side of the map. And me and Riku don't need to fight to the death.
Yeah, I think this is very clear that this is a Yuumi into the Jax. Make sure that he doesn't die. He dives in, counter-strike, boom, final chapter.
Which means it's a very good game for the Varus. It's a very good game for the Zig.
Speaking of the Varus.
Stuff that can play very defensively on that bottom side of the map, because Kite very likely is not going to get a ton of attention. Worth mentioning also, the pick up of the Jax here takes the Jax away from T1. JY drifting over to the Kha'Zix, one of his favorite picks, combos very well with the Varus.
One thing that I want to see from Leviathan, though, is wave clear, because how can Yuna move around the map if you do not have wave clear, if you do not have priority? So I feel like they're lacking a Ziggs. They're lacking wave clear, basically.
Yeah, the Morgana banned out. I wouldn't be surprised if T1 go for that Ziggs ban next.
Ziggs would make sense here. The big thing, of course, is without wave clear, without the ability to kill minions very easily, you can't justify the absence of one of those players in the form of the Yuumi from your lanes. If they're being shoved in, if your AD carry player is buried underneath the base, they can't do anything. Interesting, T1 do agree with our read at the end of the last game, ban out both the Lux and the Morgana, those kill lanes that are so dangerous early. Kill lanes that shouldn't really have ranged access to the Varus, which is kind of interesting to me. Varus very good into both those characters, in my opinion.
Yeah, so that means it's T1 saying, okay, Kite, go play Ziggs instead. And that's gonna be scary because they're gonna lock in Varus Thresh. Again, I repeat, the most oppressive Dragon lane early when it comes to early aggression.
And what all this says to me is that this is a Varus trap. This is something that the Korean region was running at the very beginning of this season. It's about Core playing more supportive on the Singed. It's about JY finishing off but not starting the kills. As BDG on the Varus is going to be the majority of the team's damage, he's going to try and find people, poke them down, while the rest of the team distracts, and then you have JY finish off those low HP targets once they're dropped low.
This is something we've seen a lot of teams actually pivot towards. When we see the Singed locked in, they'll actually go for the Garen mid lane to answer that. Can still just catch the waves, be just fine. You're never really going to be killed with the Orianna set up for the Dragon lane.
Okay, when I said wave clear, I didn't really think of Orianna. Yes, Orianna has decent amount of wave clear, but not as powerful as Lux, Morgana, and Ziggs. This is something where they're gonna want that big wombo combo. They're gonna want to put all the shields, the healing, with two massive bodyguards, and this works out so well for Leviathan, just because, again, all of the Spinies, everyone is melee on T1 except for the Varus. So this is a really nice composition when we look at the 5v5.
Yeah, the Orianna is going to be another way to boost up a Jax or a Garen in teamfights, going to enable them to access the backlines. And that backline is for T1 going to be BDG on the Varus. It's all about him to play defense and do the majority of the damage.
That's in the game.
The other thing, too, for T1 is the fact that they can leverage this Riven and snowball it as much as they did. Oh?
I like this. I like this. T1 is waiting. They're waiting for Kite. They're gonna catch him with a hook. Oh, does Kite see it coming? It seems like he sees it coming. I love that.
He knows something's up.
He knows. He knows. Amazing.
The spider senses were tingling on that one. That Kite's like, something's not right.
Something is off, right? I'm up against a Thresh. I should not face check that push. And it's a Darius mid lane, by the way, which I find very interesting to see against that Singed.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, another thing to note, it's Androck on a tank finally. Finally! Fourth game, he does it!
He did give us a Garen game earlier this week, but I know the preference for you, Hells, has been put Androck on a big beefy bruiser, big tank that can absorb pressure, and then allow Lumish to be the one that can be put in the carry range.
And I love how he has a barrier as well. Like, he is the tank. He is a barrier. All he does is tanking. You know, no ignite. Because normally you see an ignite on the Garen, and especially against the Riven, you don't want to do that because she has her third ability to get a barrier. Right here, by the way, looking at the Dragon Lane. Oh, that was a very shot. For some reason, I thought that was a Thresh hook. It kind of hit me in the heart. You know,
it just caught you off guard.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. But as you were saying, you know, because the fact that Androck can absorb pressure, can tank up in this lane, the pressure on Andy should be playing towards either Lumish in the mid lane or once again through the bottom side of the map.
So JY is playing that Kha'Zix, but if you actually look at that composition of Leviatán, then Kha'Zix is going to have such a hard time against it, and BDG is in a little bit of trouble, but he just makes it out alive.
Just taking advantage the fact that Penguin was on a roam timer. Once they see the mid lane, say, yo, BDG, you can't walk up this far, buddy.
Definitely.
Back up.
Yeah, back up. Back the hell up. And Leviatán, yet again, has great late game scaling with Kite right now. And Lumesh 1v1 in core, and he gets him!
Wait, he has 5 stacks. He's not level 5, but this is going to threaten at least a barrier out of core.
Ooh, I said flash, but if he flashed, he would have died. It's funny, because core had a barrier. Very, very well played by Lumesh to see that coming. He could still dive him right there. This is a great lane for Lumesh right now. He's going to be able to push out this wave as well and make core lose a lot of farm.
And I think this is, once again, the ingenuity from Leviatán showing here. Being able to get Lumish onto a pick like Darius. I think this is the first time ever that we have seen a Darius mid in competitive Wild Rift.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be such a good pick here as well because of that composition they're up against, right? Like Darius against the Riven, against the Singed, against the Thresh. Darius is able to deal with those types of champions while being such a tanky frontline for his team as well. Yet again, like, I really love this draft from Leviatán, but then you have BDG sitting on that Varus. Varus is so good into this as well. It's like both teams have picked certain picks that are very good into each other's draft, but the question really is, who's going to be able to execute it the best?
That is the time, age-old question, Hells. Sometimes you see, at the highest levels of international competition, you see 2 different compositions being drafted, and it's a clash of styles, and sometimes it just comes down to the execution at the end of the day.
And that's what's going to happen here. So as you can see, Penguin is looking for those roams. And it's actually Yunha on the Yuumi as well, looking for a roam. And it's going to be hard to kill Androck, but I believe T1 is going to try to go for this.
If Yunha can get there in time, now this is a stat buffed up Garen. So he's going to be far more difficult for even 3 members of T1 to take down.
He's unkillable. When there's a Yuumi attached to a Garen, he's just absolutely unkillable. And that's the beauty of Androck on the Garen. He's probably never going to get killed, easily at least. Now it's going to be Andy possibly trying to look for a gank, and it seems like he actually doesn't. I would have loved to see him go behind and try to kill BDG right there, but it seems like Andy had none of that.
Andy taking a slower approach, just making sure that they can get the wave reset in. It's 4 minutes now, so turret resistances have been dropped globally. I'm curious to see if Leviatán will make efforts to set up wave states and look for a turret pushing play, or if they're prioritizing objectives
And
instead.
we see a lot of WRL teams do this, right? Where they push out those side waves and then they get ganks. After a gank, boom, turret. So let's see what these teams actually decide to do. And that one play that WRL teams make, it works so unbelievably well. They are always able to get a turret at that 4-minute mark, but it seems like both teams are not applying that much pressure. They're both just kind of taking the chill way and playing it safe right now.
Yeah, when we look at last game, T1 was the first team that made the first move. It was all Zhong on the Camille, setting up for JY for an easy gank. He doesn't have quite the same tools to make that execution, but Lumish might be in trouble here, already using the Proto Belt. Woo! Yeah. That Proto Belt rush, actually, very nifty.
Leviatán is actually able to kind of able to deal with the pressure from T1 right now. As you can see, Lumish defending the turret, and they're going to secure the Rift Herald as well. So Leviatán doing a phenomenal job right now, dealing with that pressure from T1, which they weren't able to do in the first game.
And Leviatán is now a race against the clock here. If they can get this Rift Herald and they can just send it into the nearest tower. Oh, never mind.
Never mind.
Just as I was saying it, T1 able to get the first brick down. That's the injection of gold, and that's the dragon.
Man, it feels like I'm watching a WRL team right now. T1 is just playing so well. They got a turret, they got the dragon, and the only thing that Leviatán got was a Rift Herald. So T1 just doing such a good job. I feel like they learned a lot from the WRL teams, because as I said, like, to me it feels right now we're watching a WRL team, and in their first game as well, they were pushing their leads every single time, not giving a single chance to Leviatán to make a comeback. And although it's not going as fast right now, it kind of feels like the same.
Oh, Jong now in the 1v1 against Lumish. Lumish already popping the barrier. Oh, he's in trouble. Ignite has ticked down, but Jong has the mobility. First blood once again goes over to T1.
And yet again, Jong asserting his dominance on those power picks that he has, the Riven, the Camille, truly showing how good of a player he is. And I mean, at this point, the question is like, do you have to target ban it out against him? But that's gonna be 2 bans only against Jong, and I feel like he can play other champions just as well as the Camille and the Riven.
That's going to be a question that other teams will have to answer if T1 are able to carry out this momentum. They have the numbers advantage on this Baron side of the map, but it's the last chapter, and Androck flashing forward to connect the route, getting distance onto Core, but he's running away and he's got the poison ticket. Demacian Justice, a lot of true damage, and it's a leap strike from Andy that smites him down, but it's a easy trade bite on back. Kite forced to use the shockwave, doesn't do enough to keep T1 away as they slay another.
Whoa, BDG doing so much damage during that team fight, and he's just sitting in the back, not really taking much damage, and meanwhile shooting out those arrows. I mean, look at that damage. Oh.
That's the BDG Vera special, baby. You
Lumish.
can't disrespect it. Lumish wants some revenge, but he can't get in range.
Definitely. Lumish just a tad bit too late to the party. If he was there a few seconds earlier, could have been able to kill all of them, but wow. T1 showing how good their composition was right there, because Core got caught, but he just didn't die.
Okay, well, did you just caster jinx him? Let's see.
No. That's the power of the Singed, right? Like you get caught by a composition like that, but you just don't die anyways.
Well, at least Leviatán, for their sake, they are able to get a turret down with this Rift Herald. It opens up the mid side of the map, and that is going to give them a little bit easier access into the jungle.
That's one of the most important objectives in the game, right? The mid lane turret. And especially when you have Kite sitting on that Orianna, it means you can defend your mid lane turret very well, because Orianna has one of the best wave clears in the game. So if Leviatán can keep this up and defend their mid lane turret, they'll have a better chance at winning those team fights around the mid lane.
It's all about stalling for the side of Leviatán. They have Andy on the Jax, who is now corralling right onto JY, but it is Penguin once again. The Dark Passage giving him the safety. They're looking for a way back in. Flay already expended. Death Sentence not available until right now. Pulls Andy right in, flashing away for the Counter-Strike stun. Demacian just doesn't even get a chance to go off. Lumish with the dunk does not get it through.
And the Yuumi died as well. Yunha was attached to Lumish, desperately trying to save him, but unfortunately wasn't able to. And then it's Yuumi dying as well, so you're giving away 2 kills at that point. And T1 is taking everything. They're taking turrets, they're taking kills, they're taking the jungle, and they're going to be looking for that mid lane turret as well right now.
And this is the contrast. Whenever Leviatán were able to get a kill away from T1, they weren't able to get that many objectives. T1, they take one kill, they take everything.
And this is it, man. This is what you need to beat out those WRL teams. It's just so amazing to see how T1 has evolved through this tournament. It feels like a whole different team. This feels like a beast team.
D1 from the play-in stage, the first time that we saw them playing against
Rix, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring it up and give you trauma, you know. But looking at this replay, I mean, this is the way they are coordinated, how well executed everything is. Really is an evolution from their play-in stage games.
Definitely, like you can see Core doing his job as a Singed, you know, tanking up all the damage, tanking up all the CC, but he doesn't die because he's a Singed. Meanwhile, he slows up everyone, and yet again, it's 4 of the carries from T1 sitting on top of the gold
Woo! BDG! No hesitation, flashing forward over the wall with the Chain of Corruptions, sends Lumish back to the fountain.
And that's a free kill. And what does that mean? That's another Rift Herald. Rift Herald means another turret. It's just T1 keeping their game on. Sitting on a 6,000 gold. The Dragon is not even spawned yet. Leviatán is just, yet again, just kind of waiting to see what happens. They're unable to get anything except for their own little jungle camps.
And when I was talking with their coach, June, after their play-in stage games, and he was content with some of the performances, but at the same time, he said, I know we can do better. I know that we have a lot to work on. We're learning a lot in scrims. We're performing above expectations, but we know we can do more. And this is the level of performance that T1 want to continuously build upon as they advance further in the tournament.
This is really good. Like, this is top-notch gameplay from T1 right now. It doesn't even feel like Leviatán is a top 1 team up against this 3rd seed, which is T1. T1 is just doing such a phenomenal job, and they seem fearless as well. It seems like a fearless team. They're going in when they have to go in, even if it feels like they're risking something. Like right here, they're starting the Dragon, but they're fearless. They know they can do it.
Second Dragon being started up. T1 have already burned it down to 2,000 HP. Leviatán have to make the charge, but the Dragon is secured. Shockwave doesn't hit anyone. No CC available for Leviatán to be able to follow up on, and it's T1 all day on the Rift.
Oh my god, what a perfect team fight by T1 again. And wow, that double kill by BDG felt so good. And it was yet again, same story. Core tanking up everything on that Singed. He didn't even die. And right now, T1 is gonna destroy the base of Leviatán. Taking mid lane, taking bot lane, taking the jungle, taking Dragon. Yet again, taking absolutely everything.
Maximization, optimization, it is all built into the name of T1 and their org's brand. Being able to successfully take out multiple turrets in one fell swoop.
Wow, just wow. It's amazing to see T1 play right now. They're just executing their team fight so incredibly well. And as we head into the Coca-Cola pop-up, I want you to put your eyes on Core right now, which is the Singed. Just look at him, look at him. He keeps running, and Leviatán desperately tries to kill him. Meanwhile, their entire team is dying because they get slowed by the Singed. They take all of that damage from BDG, and this right here, Rafa. Oh, that one felt so good to watch.
When the fight is split up and chaotic, that is when a Kha'Zix gets to thrive best. Arrows from the Varus, poison from the Singed, more chaos from the Riven, just causing knockups and absolute disarray, and then the Kha'Zix just gets to have a field day.
It was just a perfect fight for T1 yet again. Leviatán has to find a way to take care of that Singed, right? Like we talked about it during after the draft. Core is going to be a massive problem for Leviatán. How do you kill the Singed? The question is, or the answer is probably you just don't. I think you just kind of have to deal with it because, and I know that's normally not the answer against a Singed, but what can you do? Try to take care of JY, try to take care of BDG, try to take care of Jong, because these are at least champions that you can catch.
Jong is doing the catching by himself, it seems. Hell's already won on the Lumish, and he's on the run. Last chapter gets him a pass back to safety, but T1, they are 13,000 gold ahead. It is not just domination, they are running this rift.
This is pretty much game over right now. Like Leviatán is not given a single chance against T1, and you can see like they're desperately trying to go in, but then what are you gonna do? You cannot do anything against this comp of T1 right now.
It is at the point where Leviatán, they're getting smacked by thicker wallets. Shockwave is huge, but can you make up the difference in the follow-up? And it doesn't seem like that's the case. T1 undeterred by any responses from the #1 team from the WOL. Another inhibitor will fall. Outer turret is down.
The WCK honestly feels like the top 3 region right now. We've seen Roster Y play, we've seen T1 play. WCK is really stepping up their game. They're showing how strong they truly are, and especially if you look at JY, if you look at BDG, they're all just playing such a phenomenal game right now.
And it's such a good response from the region as a whole, from T1 and Roster Y, after the fall of their second seed in Kwangdong Freaks, to go down to Sentinels and then Buriram prior to that. It raised so many concerns about, is Korea going to deliver? Are they truly a top 3 team? Is Brazil going to overtake them? But T1 with a performance like this erases concerns. This silences doubters in the way that they dominate and clinically take out Leviatán.
This is just domination. At this point, it's just delaying the inevitable as Leviatán. T1 is pushing their lead. They're gonna go for the Baron right now, and they're gonna look to finish the game as well.
It's all eyes on the Baron to this point, Hells. T1, just one objective away, setting up the dominoes to fall into place.
And what can you do as Leviatán right now? You know, when you go in, you're gonna die. If you don't go in, T1 takes that Baron and secures the game. So you can see Leviatán is looking for some desperate plays.
The box slows them down. The last chapter is not enough. Leviatán on the run once again after forced to make the initial engage, but T1 gets to pick and pull them apart once again. Androck is the last member standing, but it is T1 on the doorsteps of the base, not even waiting for the minion wave. They have the Baron buff, and they're going to just take out Androck for another Prime Gaming ace. T1 clean out WOL from the Icons tournament and advance in their stage.
What a dominant performance. They have such a great future ahead in the knockout stage as well. They're going to be up against the Chinese team, but T1 just showed that they got what it takes. What a phenomenal performance. And man, this is a whole new T1 that I just saw.
Now, T1 still have one more team to play against before they move on.
We're very animated as well. During the game, after the game, it's cool to see these teams actually popping off and having high energy moments here. TJ, I see you cringing a little bit. What's that about?
I see the Varus fight is what I see there around the 7-minute mark, that top lane fight.
Yeah.
And then it just
just keeps going.
Yep.
Ain't no breaks on that gold lead. I was trying to make an analogy there, and I didn't.
Yeah,
Actually, that
it's
wasn't an analogy.
Good
It was
attempt,
just a
good
mixed
attempt.
metaphor.
Nice
See,
try.
This is why.
One more time. Ready? 3,
okay.
2, 1.
No breaks on that train.
Sure.
See, this is what happens
The
when you put me
train
on
is
the
a
spot,
metaphor for the gold lead.
It's a
Ah.
metaphor for the tracks that Leviatán will be heading back home on, as unfortunately they
Oh.
are leaving the tournament now, not able to pick up a win, and LATAM as a region still chasing for greatness and an international series victory here. But it is always sad to see teams go. At the end of the day, that's competition.
Yep.
Only the top teams, only the best teams will continue on in the tournament, and today, that team was T1.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like if T1 is very comfortable with this configuration where they pour all their resources onto JY, I think that's going to be a very important approach as the tournament progresses if they don't fall against Team Flash on the next day. So that's going to be very important for knockouts.
And